Well, hello and happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome to the Idea Academy stream for the week. This is episode number 18, and today we are going to talk about the genius of wonder. So, hello and welcome. If you're out there, say hi. It's good to see you. If you are on the replay, then by all means drop a hi in the comments. Let us know that you're here. Let us know that you're watching. It's important that we interact with you, right? It's important that I interact with you because this stream is really all about what's supposed to be all about you developing yourself. It's about you getting your questions answered. It's about you learning the things that you need to take the next step in your life. And that's what we're doing really quickly here. I'm gonna do a couple of commercials real fast. In the lower left-hand corner of my screen here, you will see that we are currently working to support the LA fire relief effort and recovery effort now. We are doing that through mosaic.org. So please, you can go to that link, mosaic.org/give, and you can give directly to the wildfires. Or, of course, we always, 40% of all channel revenue from both Twitch and YouTube is always going to go to our charity of the month, and that's our charity of the month. So thank you in advance for giving to the cause. Second, and I guess less, but up here in the upper right hand corner of your screen, perhaps left, I don't know, whatever corner that is of your screen, you will see my Substack. What is Substack? You're asking, Andrew, what is Substack? Substack is a place where I keep it's a newsletter, it's a publication, it's a blog, I guess. I don't know what you would call it, but it is called Be Great, and it is a weekly read, and I try to keep it relatively short, but it's a weekly read about a way that you can grow yourself this week, a way that you can break out of being stuck. It's really, my mission is to help people get unstuck, because how many times have you just walked in and looked at your life and said, I am stuck? Maybe it's in your job, maybe it's in your own mind, who knows what it's in, but all of us get stuck. And my mission in life is to help people get unstuck. And Be Great is one of the ways that I can do that. Also, if you don't like reading, if you're not a reader, and not everybody is, I also do every week's post in audio format. So if you prefer to listen, you can go to the same place, Substack, andrewburkham.substack.com. If you go on over there, you can get that message, that weekly message, in audio format. I will read it to you. It's like a great bedtime story if you want to do that. And yeah, and it's just a little something for you that I do every week. So that's all the commercials out of the way. Let's move on to the things that are important. And this week, what's important is the genius of wonder. So let me frame this up for you a little bit. As I was thinking about what to do on today's stream, I thought, how do we get away from jumping to solutions? Do you ever get that problem? You ever have a problem where you feel like you're jumping to a solution? So here's what it is. Your next breakthrough might not come from working harder or faster. It might not come from pushing a little bit more, but it might actually come from stepping back and asking a better question. See, most of us, like I said, most of us jump to solutions really quickly. So let me frame this up for you. Have you ever had a moment where you had something and you were talking to a friend, or maybe your spouse, you were talking to somebody, and you were telling them about this problem you had, whatever it was, whatever the problem was in your life? You were telling them about this problem, and the first thing out of their mouth was, oh, well, here's what you should do about that. Have you ever experienced that? I'll tell you, I have, and more importantly, I've been the one who said that a million times. Oh, well, here's what you should do. Oh, well, here's the answer to your problems. If you would just do this, right? And we jump into solving problems too quickly for other people. But I think we also jump into solving problems for ourselves too quickly. And that's what I want to talk to you about this week. The genius of wonder helps us identify what's missing before we jump into that moment of execution. So let's first talk a little bit about what the genius of wonder is. So, the genius of wonder is a part of a system that I use in my coaching and in my consulting business. And it's called the six types of working genius. And the six type of working genius was developed by the Table Group and by an author named Patrick Lencioni, who's amazing. He writes amazing books on business and development and all those things. And he wrote this book called The Six Types of Working Genius. And the premise is that there are six different approaches to work, and that each of us gravitates towards two of them. We have two of them that we really love, that bring us energy, that bring us joy. And then we have two of them that kind of suck energy out of us and that we shy away from because they're things that maybe we're not usually very good at. They're things that we just don't love, right? And so we want to try and work in our geniuses, but the bigger framework is that all work that we do, and everything is work, guys. Everything that you do, even if you don't recognize it right now, your relationships are work. If you're doing them right, they're work. Your marriage is work. Your job, of course, is work. Your parenting style is work. Everything that you do is work. And so the reason that I love this model is that it's not all about, there's a lot of personality tests out there. There's Myers-Briggs and all of these different, all of these different types of things that tell you about the type of person that you are. But that's not what the six types of working genius is about. The six types of working genius is all about what types of work bring you joy, right? What do you love to do? So stop for a second. Think about that question. What do you love to do? I had two interviews. I interviewed two gentlemen this morning, and this was the question that I asked. One of the questions that I asked them is, what type of work do you love to do? If there was a type of task, or if there was something you could do where you could just do that forever for the rest of your life, and you would be perfectly happy doing it, what type of work would that be for you? And then on the other hand, I also asked them, what type of work do you absolutely hate? What is the worst work for you? So the first thing I'm going to ask you to do as we get into the conversation today is stop for a moment and think about that. What types of work do you love to do? Maybe you love to do like really intricate problem solving where you've got to come up with really creative solutions for things. But maybe you don't. Maybe, excuse me. Maybe what you love is just getting down to business and doing the thing that's in front of you and getting it completed. Or maybe you really, really love using your intuition to feel through different tasks where things aren't necessarily always written in stone. They're not always concrete. Whatever it is, there are things that you love and there are things that you hate. But while we should gravitate and while we should do the things that we love the most, we also have to respect and understand that the other types of work are necessary somehow. And this is what brings me to the genius of wonder. This week, I had a moment in a meeting where I had an opportunity to see this play out in real time, and it was amazing. So let's step back for a section. Have you ever felt like you were missing something, but you just couldn't put your finger on what it was? You ever had that moment where you're like, I know something is not right, or something is missing from my thought process here, but I cannot think of what it is. It's almost like that moment where you walk into the other room and you're like, why did I come into this room in the first place? Hey, Ben, welcome in. How are you doing today? It's good to see you. Very good to see you. The second question that goes along with that is, where in your life or your work do you feel like you might be solving the wrong problem? Do you ever have that feeling where you're like, man, I am solving the wrong problem? Here's how that usually manifests: by us going, well, I am working really hard on this problem and I am getting nowhere. I'm getting absolutely nowhere. That's what solving the wrong problem usually looks like. And it's usually because we're missing something. And here's where it comes from. Right? It comes from that moment that I was talking about just a second ago, that we have this tendency to jump into execution mode. We want to get things done. We want to be people who get things done. And so we see what we think is the problem and we jump right in without asking if it's actually the right problem. And I'll tell you this, what I have found is that the fastest way for you to get stuck, because remember, my mission in life is to help you get unstuck, right? If you're stuck right now, or if you know what it's like to be stuck, my mission is to help you get unstuck. But I will tell you, if you're not stuck yet, the fastest way to get there is to optimize something that shouldn't exist in the first place. To really create this amazing and intricate system and really dig in and dive in and fix this problem that absolutely doesn't exist. Can you think of examples like that in your life? Can you think of examples that are happening like that in the world right now where people are creating what we call elegant solutions to non existent problems, right? It happens all around us. It happens a lot in the government. If you scan the headlines right now, I'll bet that you'll be able to find some places where solutions are being created for problems that do not exist. Hungry though, I hear you, Ben. It's about lunchtime for me too. A little late, but I'm here. Hey, Emily, how are you? Day is so far for me pretty good, although pretty busy. Pretty busy. My days are nonstop lately. I don't know about you guys. And that's one of the problems that I'm trying to solve in my life is, what do I do? Why is it that I am back to back to back to back to back? And it's starting to cause a drop off in the quality of things that I do because I'm scheduled so tightly that I'm not having time to think about things. And that's exactly what we're talking about today. Using that genius of wonder, right? That big W to stop and say, okay, am I even on the right track? Am I even solving the right problem? How is the book coming? The book is done. I mean, it's done. So what I have done now, my next step for the book is I've given it over to some readers in my writers group, and I'm trying to get them to give me some last minute feedback before I really take the next step in publication. But thank you for asking. The book, as far as I can do anything with it, is pretty much done. It's as finished as I can get it. So I'll have more news about that very, very soon. Yeah, exactly. I'm super excited about it. In the meantime, while I'm waiting for that information to come back from my readers group, I have another project that I'm working on because of course I do. But the project that I'm working on right now is actually another book that I'm going to publish. I'm going to punish it. I will punish this book. I'm going to publish this book. It will be available on Amazon and you'll be able to pick it up there. But it's not a book. I didn't like write another book, but what I did was I wrote a journal, a 30-day journal. And this 30-day journal it's a 30-day transformation journal, and it's based on the 30-day challenge that I had. By the way, exclamation challenge. You can join up to the challenge. It is an ongoing thing, so jump in there if you have questions. Of course, hit me up with a DM. Let me know about that. But I looked at that challenge and let's make this into something that people can, if they want to, write in it, that we can create this. So I'm in the process right now of writing out those 30 days of prompts. So every day for 30 days, that book is going to give you, a little bit of inspiration, just a little note about, hey, here's what to think about today as you're making your change. And then it will give you things to just jot down a few notes on. And it's not like you have to journal for pages and pages, but just, hey, write down a sentence about this, right? And there's, some things in the morning, there's some things in the evening. So super excited about that. Oh, dude, do a 30 days with me type of book. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. Yeah. That's the whole idea behind this. And that really came from what we're talking about today, from me going, okay, the 30-day challenge that I did, it was good. A lot of people joined in and they jumped into it, but what is it? What is the problem that I really want to solve? And the problem that I really wanted to solve was helping people have something that they could hold on to, that they could use anytime they wanted to make a change in their life. So if you want to make a change in your life today, you could pick this up and you could go, okay, in 30 days, I will have made the change, right? Maybe not all the way through. Maybe I will not have met every single goal, and the book talks about exactly how that works, but it is the way in 30 days that you can make meaningful progress and create actual disciplines and habits around something that you want to change in your life. Super excited, very excited about that. Should be available very soon as I get a chance to work on it a little bit. But let me jump back to the genius of wonder, right? Oh, sorry, my phone connected to our car. You missed what I said. No worries. I was just talking about kind of what that 30-day journal is all about, and about the fact that it's, I wanted to put something in people's hands where they could pick it up, and anytime they wanted to go, I want to make a change in my life. I want to create a habit or something like, or I want to end a bad habit. They could just pick this book up and they could go through it, for 30 days, just read a little tiny little bit of a chapter every day, and maybe write down some notes if you want to. It's not required. And then at the end of 30 days, be able to go back and go, oh, here was my progress. Here's how I made that change in my life. And I know it's worked for people who went through the 30-day challenge with me. And I know it's a method that works. So I'm really excited about getting that out. So that's what I was talking about. But let me get back to the genius of wonder. The genius of wonder is the genius that loves and is really good at asking the right questions. The genius of wonder asks, is this worth doing? Or is something missing here? Or what could be better about this? It's not about solving a problem. And again, that's where we jump to. We naturally want to jump to solving problems, but that's not what wonder is about. Wonder is about seeing the bigger picture. Because we don't see the bigger picture, sometimes we don't solve the problem right. We forget to carry the one because we don't remember that column for carrying ones is even there in the first place. And let me just suggest this to you. If you never stop to ask yourself if something should be done, then I want you to consider that you might actually be wasting your time optimizing the wrong things. So if you're not ever stepping back and looking at your life, which I recommend you do this at least once a week. You step back and you look at all of the things that are on your plate, all the things you've got to do, all of your commitments, all of your tasks for the week. And you line it all up. I like to do it on a calendar, but you do it how it works for you. You look at everything and you say, do I have to do all this stuff? Do I need to do all of this stuff? And then sometimes you look at the gaps in between that you're not scheduling and you go, wait a minute, what am I doing in those places? Am I doing something that's productive and moving me towards the person that I want to become? Or am I filling those up with just whatever, right? Just random stuff, whatever happens to appear at the moment. And we don't ever get anywhere by doing that. By being random about the way that we live our lives, we don't really get anywhere. Don't get me wrong. There's a time for unscheduled time. There's a time for random time. But if you were to look at your calendar, even if you don't have it lined up on a calendar, if you were to look at your calendar right now and you were to see just the vast majority of it in unplanned time, or not in unplanned time, but unaccounted for time, then I think you've got to ask yourself, what am I doing with all of my time? Am I really going to be able to get to my goals if I don't really create some thought around how I move through my life? Am I really going to be able to become that better person that I want to become if I don't at least know, well, these are the steps that I would take and these are the things. So the 30-day journal is designed to help with that. But what helps us with that in life is generating this healthy sense of wonder and this general sense of asking, what am I not doing that I should be doing? And what am I doing that I need to stop doing? So here's an analogy. As I was putting this together this morning, here's what kind of popped into my head. You ever have a moment when you go to start your car and it doesn't start? You know that you hate that feeling, right? You just go to start it and it just doesn't start. Like there's no click, 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 none of that. Nothing, no like lights, no. So you don't know what it is, right? So car doesn't start. So when your car doesn't start, what do you do? Well, I'll tell you what you don't do, right? The first thing you don't do is you don't pop the hood and then start automatically taking the car apart, right? You don't open up the hood and start rebuilding the transmission. You don't, open up the hood and check like your spark plugs, right? That's not it, right? So let's say that happened, right? Your car doesn't start, you pop the hood, and automatically you start checking everything. You check the battery, you check the spark plugs, you check the fuel lines, you check everything, you really pull things apart, you put it back together, you still can't figure it out, and then you realize, oh, I'm out of gas. Right? Because that's how we approach a lot of our lives. Is we go straight into the most complex fixes for things we possibly can without even stopping to ask, am I solving the right problem, or is the problem right in front of me and I'm missing it? There's that old joke about the best place to hide something from people is right in front of their eyes, right? And I know I'm guilty of that. I'm always like looking for my wallet or my keys or my glasses or whatever else, and they're usually on my head or in my hand or whatever else, right? So the genius of wonder allows us to step back from that for just a moment and go, okay, before I start to act, let me think. Let me be deliberate about it. Let me really analyze the problem. So let me give you the story from the meeting this week that shifted my perspective a little bit. I was in this meeting with this team, and they were trying to solve an issue that they've been having for a while. In this case, it was kind of an inter-team issue, and everything seemed fine. The team seemed to be clicking pretty well, but they had this one team member that they kind of felt like was disengaged, or this one team member who wasn't, they were feeling like when they were in meetings, like this guy was kind of, he's like, the meeting would get done and everybody would go away and I would still be there like thinking about things, or there was another individual and it would be just the two of them left behind still talking through some things. Well, everybody else had gone off to do whatever, whatever they had decided to do. And so the misunderstanding on the team, or the perception of the team, was this particular team member wasn't paying attention, or maybe it wasn't fully invested, right? Because it was like, well, we're doing this meeting, we're talking about all of these solutions that we have to all of these things, and this guy's off in la la land someplace, just whatever's going on, we don't know, because he's not engaging with the meeting. And what I knew, because I had done the 6 types of working genius assessment with all of these team members, what I knew was that this guy had the genius of wonder. That was one of the geniuses that he gravitated towards. And so, looking at the situation, what I started to see was, while you had most of the team in this deep execution mode, this very problem-solving, very action-oriented mode, he was stepping back and evaluating. He was always evaluating. But there wasn't space for that evaluation, because the solution became so urgent that he didn't really get the chance to ask the questions. And so this was happening in this meeting, and it was like, okay, somebody, looked at this guy and they're like, see right now, like, what are you wondering right now? What's going on? Because they were making the assumption that he wasn't contributing. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, wait, he's got the genius of wonder. What if he's actually seeing something that I'm not seeing in the room? And so, one of the people there asked him, they're like, hey, what are you wondering about right now? And he said, no, I don't want to talk about it. It's dumb. It's totally stupid. And they're like, no, we want to know, what were you wondering about right now? And I saw this as a moment for potential growth. So I encouraged him to. I said, yeah, man, like there's nothing stupid at all. I want you to tell me what you're wondering about right now, or what you were wondering about in that moment when they called you out. And the shift in perspective that he gave me changed the conversation completely. Because here's what it was. The guy said, well, honestly, what I was wondering about at that moment was if you really write your U's that way, like my letter U. Because I'd been doing this presentation, I've been doing this workshop with this team, and so I was writing all over this whiteboard. And he points at the U and he's like, yeah, man, you draw your U's weird. And I was just trying to look. So I was looking all around the board and finding the different U's. And he's like, and I saw that you draw, that is how you do your uppercase U's, but your lowercase U's are not. They're completely different. And I'm like, okay. Here in my head, I'm thinking, because the genius of wonder it's not one of my geniuses. So my first reaction was, okay, that's pretty random. That's pretty random. But I stopped and I thought, okay, that's pretty random. But what am I missing? And so I asked him a follow-up question. My follow-up question was this: can you tell me why you zoomed in on my U's specifically? Because my handwriting, guys, is terrible. If you've ever seen my handwriting, it's not good. It's really, really bad. Uh, but he had zoomed in specifically on my U's. And I'm like, why would you zoom in on my U's? And he goes, well, to be honest with you, like, it's right in front of me. And so I looked at the board, and right in his sight line, right in the middle of the board, but right in front of where, because he was sitting kind of in the middle of the table, and right in his sight line was the word trust. I had written the word trust because trust is the bottom of the pyramid that all teams have to build and all relationships have to build. And right there, I'd written in uppercase letters the word trust. And not only had I written it, but I'd circled it, and I'd also put like a box around it. And so here I had created this word that was right in his sight line and that I had emphasized. And I'm like, oh, this is the lesson. This is what I was missing. This is the perspective that I need that will actually help me get better, that will help me get unstuck and help me move towards being a better facilitator. And so I looked at him and I said, man, I got to thank you because you just taught me with your genius of wonder. You just taught me 3 important lessons. And here are the 3 important lessons that you just taught me. Lesson number 1 is that I need to pay attention to how I write things on the board. Because there are some people, even though I'm just doing it like as a mental process to get things out, there are some people in the room who really need that information to be able to process. Some people process better when they can see things, right? And when they can locate them in real space. And so I said, okay, first lesson is I need to pay attention to how I write things on the board. And the second lesson that I need to learn is that I need to pay attention to where I write things on the board. Because sure enough, I put that one word right in the middle of the board, and it was right in your sight line. And that mattered because it was, when you looked at the board, that was the thing that you saw. But everybody also might zoom in on that because it's right dead in the center of the board. So where I write things on the board is important. I can't be haphazard or accidental about it. I have to be intentional about how I use the board. And the third lesson was how I emphasize things is important. So again, that word trust, which we had really just touched on it. It wasn't the main topic of conversation, but I had circled it and I'd put a box around it. And there was other, maybe more information on the board that I hadn't called out. And so by calling so much attention to that, I had created weight for this person, so much so that it directed him towards that rather than information maybe that would have been more important for him to integrate. So from that one thing that guy thought was a stupid thing to wonder about, I was able to take 3 different perspectives and understand how I can be better as a facilitator. Now, I hope that you go through this exercise. I hope that you will walk through this yourself. When somebody makes an observation that seems like it's out of left field, or if it seems like it's random, or if you ask somebody for feedback and they give you something that doesn't seem to make any sense, I hope you'll go through this and ask, what's the lesson that I can learn from that seemingly random thing that person said just now? So in doing this, every week I like to give you a little bit of a practical exercise to go along with this. And by the way, if you're not taking notes, which I don't expect, but if you do want to go back and look at this, I always publish a guide, like an episode guide. It's available to you completely for free. And there's a bunch of different ways that you can get a hold of that. You can always, of course, just DM me for it. But if you're on my mailing list, if you're on my email list, that guide goes out as a part of my newsletter every Friday that's over on Substack that I mentioned. Other side, andrewburkham.substack.com. There will always be a link to that episode guide in that newsletter so that you can go back and see this. So if you don't have chance or you don't want to write it down, by all means don't. But the exercise that I created for you this week is what I call the Wonder Reframe. So it's reframing things, reframing our lives, reframing our what's in front of us in terms of wonder. And here's why this matters to you. So here's why this is important to be able to do this, is because, as I said, people default to execution mode too quickly. We see a problem and we feel like we have to solve the problem. And sometimes that means we don't ask if we're solving the right problem. But this is designed to help you shift your perspective in real time. And maybe it will show you that you are solving the right problem, but maybe it will show you that you are not solving the right problem. It's just a way to change your perspective. We catch up with chat here. I feel that can apply to conversations in general. You might mean something some way, and the other person takes it another way. And unless you're willing to step back and see why it might have appeared that way, you could cause unnecessary conflict. I love that, Emily. I think that's absolutely the truth, right? Is we go into conversations with all of our own individual stuff. I was talking about this last night. It was a Bible study last night. And they were talking about what it was about, be still and know that I am God, right? That's that passage. And we were having this conversation about what it means to be still, right, in God's presence. And as we were talking about, I thought, well, you know what it is? It's really that conversational skill that we talk a lot about. I think this came up in the arena this week too. I think Erwin said something about it, but that conversational thing that you have where, when you're talking to somebody and you realize at some point that you're not really paying attention to what they're saying, you're just thinking about what you want to say next or what you need to say next. That's kind of what this is. And that's a little bit of what you're talking about, Emily, is that I'm taking so much of my own context into those conversations that I'm not really stopping to go, wait, what is the context that the other person is bringing to the table? So unless you can have a conversation with someone and be able to see that they come to it with a different context than the one that you come to it with, you will find yourself in unnecessary conflict. This is what causes political strife. It's what causes factionalization, both on the political scale, on the personal scale, in the workplace. And this is what causes just a lot of the headbutting that we don't need to get into. It's because we forget that other person is coming from a whole different context. So I think that's really good. There's that moment where you have to step back and say, am I listening? And am I approaching this from context? Or am I just taking my context and assuming that person is coming from the same place that I'm coming from? Don't have a conversation to make replies. Have conversations to have healthy back and forth. That means listening too. One of the hardest skills that I find that for people to develop is active listening. And active listening is the process of really listening, really listening, and being able to then respond, maybe not as quick. And that's where that plays into this conversation too. When we're using the genius of wonder, sometimes we don't respond as quickly. And I think we have this thing, don't we? I think we have this thing where we're like, well, if I take a moment to pause, then it looks like maybe I'm stupid because I didn't have a response right back. Right? We put a really big value on quick responses. We think that if people aren't snappy and quick to, with a comeback or things like that they're not smart. We actually use that to gauge people's intelligence. And sometimes we've got to be aware that we need to leave space for thought in conversations. What if I look dumb, or what if they don't think I was listening to them? I get those thoughts a lot. That's exactly what I'm talking about, Emily. I do that too. I get that all the time. I'm like, okay, well, I have to have something smart to say as soon as they're done talking, because if I don't, then they'll think I'm dumb, or they'll think I'm not interested, or they'll think I'm not listening. And what I've learned is often what I will do now is I will try really hard to zone in on what they're saying. And then I'll say, give me a second. I need to, let me process that for a second. And maybe I've got a question about that. Let me ask you a question about something that you just said, right? Maybe sometimes that's a way to give your brain a little bit of that kick into, okay, really listen mode. So when I'm listening, sometimes I'm thinking, okay, what do I need to dive deeper into here? but instead of just going, hey, here's my part of the conversation. Let's see. Emily says, my go-to response is, I know what you mean, or I understand where you're coming from, because my brain has to process and I don't know how to fill that space of silence. Yeah, that's good. I think sometimes we just get comfortable with the silence. That's okay. And I think sometimes we just let people in and say, you know what? Give me a second. I need to think about what you just said. Because then what's great about that is when somebody says that, when I say to somebody, hey, here's my feedback or here's the information, and they go, hold on, let me process that for a minute. I like that. I really do, because that makes me know that whatever I said, it's actually, they're taking the time to think about it. They actually want to engage me in whatever I'm saying. So yeah, so I think that's good. I think we build out ways to make those conversations more comfortable, and to be a little more comfortable with silence, and to be a little bit more comfortable slowing conversations down. Let's take time and make sure we're really talking to each other, not just bantering, right? Banter is sometimes very easy, but it's hard to go deep when you're bantering. So here's the wonder reframe that I've got for you. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to identify a current challenge. So think of a challenge that you're going through in your life right now, a roadblock that you've got, something that you feel stuck on. You don't have to put it down any place. You're always welcome, of course, to put it in the comments. But I just want you to think in your head. I want you to get locked in on something that you're facing right now that's a roadblock, that's a challenge. I'm going to give you mine. I'm going to go through this with you. Okay, we'll do this together. I'll be a little bit vulnerable. I wasn't actually even considering doing this, but let's do it since we're here. We'll see if I can come up with a way to look at my own problem in a different way. My current problem is that I have been very bad at managing my calendar. And because I am involved in multiple full-time pursuits, I'm doing a really bad job of showing up to things on time, or of remembering to get things done that need to get done, or sometimes just fitting things in. So just walk you through a little bit of, every day I'm up at 5:30. You know that I go to the gym. I do my morning routine. But then I don't start meetings until 10 a.m. And what I like to do in that meantime is I like to set myself up for the day. But one of the things that I have dedicated myself to for this month, for the month of February, I've got it right here. It's the scorecard. I can't tilt the camera so you can see it, but there's the scorecard right here. And so every day, I'm trying to, with the exception of weekends, I'm giving myself Saturdays and Sundays off from this process because I do other things on those days. So every single day, I'm trying to make a post to every single one of my social media outlets. So that means I've got a post that goes to, oh gosh.
Right now at twitch.com/hot_shot_cowboy.
It's Rob.
Dreams and alpha male screams, motivate with real extremes, robs the man with daring schemes, hotshot cowboy reigns supreme.
Yeah, see, that's an example right there of how I have failed to execute on something, because that's something that's only supposed to trigger during my gaming streams, not during my Thursday streams, and I forgot to shut it off because right now I'm having a hard time managing all of the things. You shouldn't be sorry. It's not your fault. Thank you for lurking, dude. I appreciate you. I'm so sorry about that. Yeah, no, not your fault at all. But a perfect thank you for illustrating the issue that I'm having in my life. Playing Civ just eliminated France. Good at Terratex. I approve of that. That's awesome. And also welcome in. Good to see you. So I'm having a hard time with that right now, with getting everything done. Oh yeah, I was saying I'm trying to post every day to all of my things, plus a note to my Substack. So if you join my Substack, if you haven't yet, do it. andrewburkup.substack.com. You're good at illustrating things. I appreciate you, my friend. I appreciate you very much. You're the best. You're a good friend. What can I say? So I'm posting to LinkedIn, to Instagram, to TikTok, to Facebook on both the personal and the business side, and a note to Substack. I'm trying to do that every single day. The note I'm not holding to myself to every day. That's one thing that I'm not. But all of those other outlets, every single day. And so as a result, what that means is I have really between about 6 a.m. and, 10 a.m., but realistically, 8-ish a.m. to get all of that stuff done. And I'm finding that I'm having a really hard time doing it. And I'm not always, some of my posts really hit as a result, and some of them totally flop as a result because I'm not always putting the best intention into that. Oh, you put your current problem in case you hadn't seen, to help be involved. Okay, hang on. Let me see this. My potty training a puppy, learning to rebalance healthy sleep while having to wake up more often to take him out. Okay, that's a super valid problem. Excellent. Very, very good. So that's the challenge you're facing right now. And we know my challenge. I'm doing a terrible job of managing my life. So now, the next step of this, step 2 of the reframe, is how are you currently thinking about it? Right? How are you currently thinking about it? So now you ask yourself the question, okay, you ask yourself a question. And the question is, what question am I currently asking myself about this problem? So what question have you asked about the problem? Now, it's possible you're not asking yourself a question, and that could be a problem. So if you're not asking yourself a question about the problem that's in front of you, that might be a good place to start, is come up with a list of questions. Get curious about your problems, because you won't build good solutions without curiosity. That's really, really important. So let's see. What is the question that I'm asking myself about the problem? And I think the question that I'm asking myself about the problem right now, or the question that I've been asking myself, is how do I get all of that stuff done in the very limited amount of time that I have? So how do I set my day up so that I can get everything done in that very narrow space? And so for you, Emily, I'm not sure what that question is, right? What's the question that you're asking yourself right now? How do I do what, right? So we have to determine that first question that we're asking ourselves, the problem that we think we're trying to solve. And then step 3 is we apply wonder. So we put on our wonder caps and we shift to that question. Now, if you've got the genius of wonder, this will be easier for you than it is for me. I don't. I have the geniuses of enablement and discernment. And so wonder doesn't come as natural to me. So I had to create a shift for myself that I'm going to use to try and shift this. Let's see. Emily says, I'm currently thinking about it like this. Rob has agreed to help with the nighttime potty break so I can sleep better. And also, we got a Kong for him to use to keep him asleep from being tired longer. Okay. All right. Good, good, good. So we've got some solutions, right? And then what you would ask yourself is, okay, well, what are the questions that we've asked? And then reframe, right? So instead of focusing on execution, and I'll use myself, right? I'll throw myself under the bus here. So instead of focusing on execution, which I've been doing, stepped the question step and went right to the solution. Hey, thank you, Emily. Once again, you have illustrated my point, right? That we go right to the solution step. That's what we tend to do. So for me, instead of focusing on execution, I'm going to step back and going, am I asking the right question? So here are some prompts that I wrote down this morning right out of the shower. There are 3 things. I asked, what if the problem isn't the problem? So what if the fact that I'm having to sprint to get everything done is not the actual problem, right? And then what's missing that I haven't considered? So I'm looking at a very narrow block of my day, the morning. Is there something that I haven't considered? Is there something that I'm not thinking about? And then the third one, if I wasn't limited by assumptions, and my assumptions are what are my assumptions? I could identify those, that I have to get everything done in the morning, that I have to post to everything every single day, right? If I wasn't limited by those assumptions, what else could I try? So that's where I start to think. So take your problem and then restate it as a new wonder-based question. So for me, I think I'm gonna pick up on that first one, right? So what if the problem isn't the problem? So let me go back, and I'm thinking about now, what was the goal that I wanted to do? Why did I decide that I was going to post to all of my social media every single day? And the reason that I'm actually doing it is because I'm trying to get people directed over to my new Substack because I want to get more subscribers, free subscribers. By the way, you can pay $5 a month, and I will gladly give you additional content for that. But for the support, but free subscribers. So I'm trying to grow the free subscriber base on my Substack, and so I thought, well, I can do that by increasing my social media presence. But what if the problem that I'm solving isn't the problem? So the problem that I'm solving is, how do I get everything posted every single day? But what if that's not the problem? What if the problem actually is that I need to find a better way to direct people to get them connected to my Substack? And now that I think about that, right? Now that I think about that, it occurs to me that that is the real problem. That's the actual problem. Because right now I'm looking at my little scoreboard here, and I started at the beginning of January, when I launched this Substack. I started with 57 subscribers. Now, most of those were people that I had imported from my email list, but I started with 57. And then over the time, I grew it to 61, and then to 62, and then to 63, and then on the 7th, I hit 65. So on the 7th of this month, that's about a week ago. That was 6 days ago. I'd grown from 57 to 65. Not a big growth, but it's a specific kind of thing. But so growth. But I'd seen growth every day. But if I look at it now on the 13th, I haven't grown another single subscriber since the 7th. So what have I done? I posted tons of different TikToks, Instagram Reels, Facebook posts. I've gotten, even some of them have gotten, done pretty well. I think I had, let's see, my best TikTok. Where'd it go? I want to say I did probably like 800. So not big. It's not like anything has gone. Okay, stop doing that. It's not like anything has gone like massively viral or anything like that. But let's see, I had one. Yeah, so I had one from the other day that hit 859. Actually, that was yesterday's post. Oh, that's pretty good. So yesterday's post hit 859 views on TikTok, and it's obviously still climbing because it was just yesterday. So that's not too bad. For me, for somebody I've only been doing TikTok for like a month, so it's pretty good for me. But here's the thing, like, okay, I solved that problem of getting 859 people to view that, but it didn't give me even one more Substack subscriber, even though it's totally free also. So maybe I've been solving the wrong problem. So maybe I need to step back. Not that I need to stop, having content on my social media, but maybe I need to step back and I need to figure out what's the real problem that I'm trying to solve. What is it that I'm really trying to solve? Maybe the problem is that I'm trying to build better connection with my audience. And so that's why I'm doing a lot of videos kind of in this format where I'm talking directly to my audience. And maybe I'm seeing some success with that. So maybe it's about leaning into the platforms where I am having success instead of being very deliberate about getting all of the platforms. Like on Facebook, I have a Facebook business page that no one ever looks at. And so, but I'm posting on it. I'm writing a separate post for it every single day. So maybe I need to just get out of that altogether, right? But I need to reframe it. So, but here's the thing. Wonder doesn't always provide answers, but sometimes it reveals better paths forward. So that's something that I'll have to work through. But the fastest way to get stuck is to keep asking the wrong question. And if that's the case, then the fastest way to break through is to change the question. And that may be something that I've just successfully done. So we'll see how that goes. Let's see. Emily catching back up with chat. So sorry. Assumptions are I felt Heimdall was easier to train than this puppy, but like Rob told me, I'm looking at the last almost 6 years and comparing it to a 10-point. Yes, that's true. Week-old puppy. So I have to learn to give him more grace and patience with regards to his challenges, because even though they aren't the same challenges Heimdall still had challenges that we were able to overcome. I love that, right? I love that, reframing it and going, you know what? We faced challenges before. We overcame those challenges. We can do this, right? This is hard, but we can do hard things. Love it. Let's see. I need to be better at realizing how far he's come in the last week instead of wishing he'd come farther in comparison to a dog that I've had for 5.5 years. Yes. Excellent. Ugh, TikTok. Hey, Aleman, welcome in. Welcome in. I'm glad that you got home, my friend. How are you today? I hope you're doing well. Sorry, you caught me in the middle of a tirade there. But I love that, right, Emily? So but when we start to change that question a little bit, we start to look differently at the way the problems we are. So you know what? Maybe I'm not going to make such a big deal out of posting on everything. Maybe I'm going to really lean into the things where I'm seeing connection with people and drive a little bit harder on my call to action to try and get those people to take a look at my Substack, right? Maybe that's the way I reframe this. So like I showed you, right? This is the Wonder Reframe exercise. I'll go through the 4 steps of you again. You identify a current challenge. You ask yourself, how am I currently thinking about this, right? What's the question that I'm asking about this question, the problem right now? Then you shift the question and you say, okay, I'm not going to ask a question about execution. I'm going to ask a question about what the problem really is, if I'm really focused on the problem. And then 4th, I'm going to reframe my solution to the problem in terms of the paths that have been revealed by my reframe. Been lurking, have to jet. All right, see you ahead of steel. Thanks for popping in. Take care, my friend. Thanks for the lurk, buddy. All right. So anyway, so that is kind of my process. There's a live example of it, I guess, for what that's worth, and I hope that comes to you as some value as well. So a lot of times we think of this, though, because again, I said everything's work, but a lot of times we think of this as, okay, well, I can really apply that in my workplace or things like that. But how do you apply it in your everyday life? So for those of you who are not interested in, putting a lot of more thought into your workplace or whatever else, how does this apply to you in your everyday life? I think that you have to look and ask yourself, how do I know if I need wonder? So here are some ways that I put down that you can tell if you need wonder in your life. You need wonder in your life if you feel stuck even though you're taking action. So if you're working really, really hard on something, but you still feel like you're not going anyplace, you need wonder. You need to apply a wonder reframe. If you find yourself fixing small problems, but they're not moving the bigger issue, then you need wonder. So if you find yourself, again, like really maximizing, oh, I'm going to get this Facebook post so it's exactly in the algorithm, right? But you're not actually driving people to your Substack, which is what you wanted to do in the first place, then you probably need a wonder reframe. Or if you're focused on how instead of why, then you are in need of a wonder reframe, because unless you drive, it's like behaviors, like how I talk about identity needing to be the driver for behaviors, right? We go out and we go to places and all of these people want to tell us that you got to change your behaviors. It's all about your behaviors, change your behaviors. But these people who are just telling us to change those behaviors, what they don't understand is that if I don't change the way I believe about myself, then the behavior is not going to stick. It's going to be useless. It's going to come from a fake place. And so it's not going to be sustainable. So here's my challenge to everybody who is out there telling people to change their behaviors. You need to get off your high horse about the way people behave, and you need to start teaching people how to think about themselves. Because until you do, you will never get the change that you desire or that you believe is important. So those are some ways to tell if you need wonder. What does wonder sound like in your life? It sounds like you asking yourself the question, what am I missing? What is missing here? Or what is the right problem to solve? Or what could I do differently if I wasn't under these assumptions? Or even what are the assumptions that I have? Just like Emily walked through, she's like, hey, I've got all these assumptions and I'm carrying in the whole idea that this dog is exactly like another dog, which of course is an irrational assumption because dogs, like people, are going to behave in different ways. Right? So I love that. I love that realization. So good. So good. So good. I guess if I left it there, I would feel like I was telling you guys never to take action. And if you know anything about me, it's that I am a believer in the philosophy of just do it, right? I follow the Shia LaBeouf just do it philosophy. Or I guess Nike would be the other way. But we have to balance wonder with action. So it's good. We need to step back and we need to see the forest for the trees. But I don't want to give you the idea that you should never take action. And so what I would say is use wonder to define clarity, to get clarity around the problem. But then don't let it be an excuse for inaction, right? Use it before you execute, but don't wait to know everything perfectly before you execute, right? Don't wait for all of the details to be in place before you execute. Use wonder to know what the path forward is, and then just take a step on that path. And then look down at your feet. And if your step is not in the right direction of the path, then recalculate. But don't wait until you know exactly what the path looks like, right? Emily says, even though Rob and I had it into perspective, I appreciate you helping further cement that perspective. Oh, you're welcome, Emily. I'm glad I could. I mean, and again, you guys know some of this already, so I'm not surprised you're already using some of this because you guys know some of this, and you've already you've already built some of these skills. So I love that. It's so awesome, so awesome. Keep in mind that wonder without action is just daydreaming. Right? They say that, vision without action is just a hallucination, right? And wonder without action is daydreaming. Now, on the other side, action without wonder is just blindly leaping. It's just blind execution. So we don't want either. We want to make sure we put both together. But the message that I want to get across to you is that your next big insight, your next big breakthrough, it's not waiting at the finish line. It is probably sitting in the question that you haven't asked yet. So do some work this week and figure out what is that question that I haven't asked yet. The best leaders and creatives and content creators and problem solvers, the wisest people that I know are not the people that just have great answers, but they're people who ask really, really good questions. So stretch that question muscle. Do it all the time. Constantly be curious about things. Constantly be asking why things are the way they are. And if you're feeling stuck, then I want you to remember that the first step isn't always just doing more. It might be asking what you're missing, right? So make sure that you use that this week. So if you are watching this today, either live or on the replay, I'm curious if I'll ever find a house to buy. Ben, you will find a house to buy. That we know for certain. The question is, what's the problem you're trying to solve, right? What is the question you're trying to solve? Because when I know, my wife, Patience, and I, we went through the process of buying a house. As a matter of fact, 13 years ago, tomorrow, we signed papers on the house that we live in right now. This luxurious house that you see all around me. 13 years ago, we signed papers on this house. It was Valentine's Day. And I know that when we set out to buy a house the first time, we were solving the wrong problem. We thought that the problem was buying a house, but it wasn't. The problem that we were trying to solve was not buying a house. The problem that we were trying to solve was economic, and it was a question of freedom, of creating freedom for ourselves. And so we actually went through the process of starting to buy a house once. This is all in my book, by the way, Be Great, out later this year. We went through the process of starting to buy a house once and actually halted that process. And then we came back to it several years later. And what we discovered was by then we'd had a chance to figure out what the real problem was. And when we knew what that real problem was, we solved it, right? We solved it much better than we would have the first time. So I know you will find a house. I know you will. So questions for yourself this week, drop them in the comments if you're watching the replay. Where do you need to step back and engage wonder in your own life? And what's an area in your life right now where you might be solving the wrong problem? So I want you just to try this. Before you tackle your next challenge, whatever that is, right? Whether it's at work or at home in your relationship and your spiritual life, pause and ask, is this the right problem to solve? And if it is, or if it isn't, or if you have questions, I want you to send me a DM. That's what I want you to do. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on TikTok. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me, of course, here on Twitch, here on this channel, but all of my other socials are at Andrew Burkham, just my first and my last name. Oh, you can hit me up, of course, over on Substack. You can send me a DM on Substack as well. I would love to get that, even on LinkedIn. But send me a DM this week and let me know what you're thinking around that. And then if today's session helped you in some way, do me a favor. Share it with somebody that needs it. You probably know one person who gets stuck in your life. Just share this stream, or, I'll go back through and I'll try and edit out some of the best moments and build them into shorts, but just share it with somebody who needs it and see if you can help somebody else get past whatever is in their way this week as well. Because what we do for others helps us cement what we need to do in our own lives. I know lots of people who need this, but the problem is they don't accept it though. I know, Emily, you know what? And it's like anything else. Sometimes you can't catch everybody, but maybe we get one, right? Maybe one of these days we get one. So thank you for continuing to share it. I do appreciate it. Guys, get on over, sign up for my Substack if you haven't already. I'd love to have you over there. That's every week a little bit more in-depth, like bit out of my brain. I always try to give you different solutions. I try to make it something, it used to be, that newsletter used to be kind of a recap of this, but I'm really dedicated now to providing you a different growth area. That's something that's coming out of my life right now. And, the bottom line is I just want to help. I want to help in as many people I can in as many ways as I can. And this is one way that I hope to do this. So that is it for me for today. So hit me up, go follow the Substack. I will see you guys later on. Please take care of yourselves. Have a great week. And remember that even when it feels like you're stuck, even when it feels like you're spinning your wheels in the mud, even when it feels like your car won't start, and you're in the deepest, darkest parts of trying to reframe everything, then you still have that moment of greatness that's waiting for you, right? It's still waiting for you, but it's not coming for you. It's up to you to pursue that moment. So this week, I want you to ask yourself, what's the right problem to solve? And how can I get started today? Now, go be great. I'll see you next time.
I've been caught in the whispers, lost in my doubts, tangled in stories I can't live without. But there's a fire, it's burning inside, calling me forward, I can't run and hide. It's not about perfection, it's about the climb, breaking through the limits, one step at a time. With every breath, I'm closer to the dream, a life that's bold, a heart that grieves. Be great, stand tall, rise above it all. Let your light shine through, answer the call. There's power in you, don't hesitate. This is your moment, go on, be great. The mirror's reflection, it shows who I am, but it's just the beginning, not the end of the plan. Through trials and heartache, I've learned how to fight, to shape my tomorrow. I start with tonight. It's not about the shadows, it's about the flame, fueling the courage to rewrite the game. Every step forward, I leave fear behind. Greatness is waiting, it's yours and it's mine. Be great, stand tall, rise above it all. Let your light shine through, answer the call. There's power in you, don't hesitate. This is your moment, go on, be great. Through the storms and